Welcome back, noble heroes. We return once again to Mythia, where we find our heroes have joined with the kings of many nations at a very important summit where the very prophecy with which guides them has been changed. Harper has now become one of the prophesized, and Roland is not. How that will affect the morale of their group, the changing dynamic, who knows? But we shall see momentarily. But first, I would like to ask you all to give us a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying this. And we are going to go ahead and do a little bit of a switching perspective here. Let's get started with this. Outside the citadel, where a dozen eyes watched every bit of sky, floated an invisible angel, the keeper of darkness, Dominus. He was well out of range of the detection spells and wards, but he could still see the suite of windows, where he was guessing they would take royalty during the inevitable breaks during the summit. The glass was too hard for him to pierce, and if he sent anything flying at them, he would likely not survive the few minutes after. He was only watching to see if opportunity presented itself. In his patience, something did occur. He felt a shift, barely perceptible to even his angelic senses, but something changed inside the walls before him. Elsewhere, Euphemia looked across the table at her former king, Jasiah. The two met eyes for a moment, and she felt fierce hatred flow through her. She saw clearly in her mind a daydream of herself leaping across the table to decapitate the bastard. She decided as she listened to try to see through him with her powers, to find out his secrets. It hadn't worked long ago, when she had still been his subject, but maybe now. The halfling pirate focused her gaze on him, and to her surprise, something began to take shape. It was working. But then, as if a cloud came over Jasiah, her vision faded. Frustrated, she tried again. Nothing. Suddenly, the new emperor, Zento of Pavitas, entered and thwarted her efforts for a few minutes. As the conversation turned slightly less interesting, she turned and used her powers on one of the paladins just to make sure it was working. It wasn't? After several more attempts, it was still unclear what was blocking her abilities at this crucial time, but she seethed in silence as the wicked king screamed his hatred at them, and then was satisfyingly uppercutted. Several moments later, King Jasiah moved briskly through the halls of the citadel, surrounded by enemies. He was enraged at the gnome who had insulted him, and wished nothing more on them than to enact the plan that he and the elders of Farmwatch had plotted. Everything was prepared. If all went well, by day's end, all his foes would be dead. Those weakling leaders, without the foresight or knowledge to even speak to someone like him. The godmothers, who had used tricks and fake wisdom to mislead. The assassin halfling, who he had hunted for years. Roland, Harper, all dead. Additionally, now that he had total confirmation that his son was imprisoned in Giran, he would set to freeing him, and his entourage stormed into their suite, and he said to prepare his plot in privacy. Back at the summit floor, Euphemia's senses were growing even more clouded now. Something was happening. Was her fate giving out? Or changing as Roland's had? She kept silent for the moment, as much was happening, and she didn't want to add unneeded extra questions to an already sizable plate. There was a palpable pressure in the room which seems to be rising to a climax. As fate gripped Hero and rewrote the prophecy with its power, Euphemia felt the pressure ebb. She remembered Harper speaking about threads, and imagined that she had been stuck in a ball of yarn, blocking her power. And though she had been all ready for Jasiah to leave, she was suddenly torn. Could her abilities work on him now? In the suite, Jasiah removed a needle from his skin, carefully stuck under the first layer and no deeper. The needle had cost many people months of work. It was a powerful magical artifact. With a smirk, Jasiah took it to the window and ran it under the windowsill. A light hiss creeped from the needle as it pierced a very small hole in the magical wards. Not enough to even cast a spell through, but enough to let a darkness through the Shadow Realm. The elders of Farmwatch would already be chanting a ritual in their own rough tongue to summon the shadow spawn into the room, infecting his aging sages, who had ritualistic markings hidden under their robe for just this event. The infected sages would mutate into powerful monsters and be drawn to the enchanted items he had graciously gifted to the kings of Giran before the meeting, drawing them away from him and his allies and towards his foes, who would not withstand his secret onslaught. Little did Jossia know that just outside, Dominus felt the change in the defenses of the citadel. The immortal king had just opened a way to reach him. The Angel of Darkness coursed down, drawn with great intensity to his longtime nemesis. He would exploit this error on Jossia's part and corrupt him, taking over Aragoth himself. The angel neared. Suddenly, something like a smoke exited the tiny hole in the ward, wafting like a ghost through the Shadow Realm. Dominus tried to grab it, but it flitted through him and on to somewhere else. He decided to ignore it for the moment. Even as Jossia's sages prepared to give their lives unto the darkness, becoming super soldiers for his cause, a quick knock sounded on the door for only a second before it opened and a monastress walked inside. Jossia whirled and was forced to jam the needle into his own flesh to prevent the angel's senses from noticing it. In his haste, the fragile needle bent, ruining the magic. The intense pain momentarily stopped him from speaking. Everyone in the room was caught wildly off guard by the sudden intrusion and waited for Jossia to verbally lash her, but it was taking all his effort to control his face. I wanted to personally apologize for the angel stopped. Oh my, she stated as she moved quickly through the room and stood before the window. Outside, Dominus stared at her, both separated by a slim pane of glass. Unbeknownst to Jossia, a monastress had lost her superior senses when she had fallen. He had acted in haste and ignorance when he had stabbed himself. The wards of your window seem to be damaged. Her finger traced a small bit of magic to re-establish the wards. There. We wouldn't want anything attacking His Majesty, or anyone else in the castle. Even in his pain, Jossia caught the clear signal within the words. He had been caught. A monastress inwardly smirked and made a mental note to thank her paladins and clerics for their aid in watching the bastard king in ways he couldn't detect. Just outside, Dominus couldn't hear anything they said, but he could read her lips. The darkness crept back from his head. A very human face was revealed under the layers of darkness. His fingers came so close to brushing the window, potentially setting off the alarms. He was imagining touching her hair again. My love, he whispered. Then she was gone. How long would she stay fallen, he wondered, all to save him. Inside, Jossia was humiliated and began to scream at his guards for their failure to save him. For their failure as he ripped the now useless needle from his skin. His plans foiled. Dominus's momentary weakness was satisfied. I apologize. His plan failed. Dominus was momentarily weakened, but was satisfied and smiled. He may not be able to kill Jossia, but at least he was able to watch this scene. The Dark Angel retreated before someone noticed him. While all this played out, something unseen had occurred. The full extent of what had happened was known to no single party, even to Dominus. Through the minute hole that Jossia had made, one thing had left, and one had entered. What had entered was Pitt's plague, whispering through the gap in the window sill to infect the man it was made for, a very unique gift from son to father. The sickness was made for Josiah, and him alone. The other was a gift from father to son. A magic floated silently and undetected to Piercy. In his cell, the two casters felt the arrival of the gift as it solidified in thin air, becoming a small object. Both Pitt and Piercy immediately realized its nature, but they stared at it for a long time before picking up the tiny vial with his mouth and drinking its contents. The vial vanished into smoke as soon as the burden was taken. The bound cleric languished back in his chains and wondered who his mysterious benefactor had been. Perhaps if he had known, Piercy wouldn't have been so quick to take the poison. We begin back in the room just as it is uncovered that Harper is to be joining the prophecy and Roland is out. As Hero seems to come back to himself, he seems exhausted by the process of fate taking hold of his body and using him like a puppet to make a rather intense and awe-inspiring declaration. The kings in the room, of all they have seen today, are most shocked by this. As Josiah and Farmwatch are gone, you will see immediately there is a hush that falls over the crowd around you. Resium is going to come forward, a man of rules and of tradition. "What is this?" he says. Harper is going to turn to Roland, and the two of them speak very quietly to one another, but Harper seems to be suggesting that maybe Roland should go in his stead to leave the area. But Roland shakes his head. He doesn't seem to want to go. In fact, he seems quite upset. Hero, for his part, is going to rub the back of his neck and then look up, seeming to realize the very thing that has grabbed him and taken the room by storm. And then he's going to sort of panic and look around and lock eyes with Juniper, who, at this moment, it seems, he is hoping has some kind of answer. June, as you look around, you see that many eyes in the room have fallen on you as the original purveyor of fate in this particular circumstance. It looks like the Kings of Giran are hoping that, of all the knowledge here, that yours might give something.
Has that ever happened? Has a prophecy changed like that?
It has happened before, a few times in history, but it is very rare. You would say perhaps 1% of all prophecies have a change like this.
Okay.
It is possible that it has not happened in the mortal lifetimes of anybody here, but maybe a Manistress might know about it before.
She'll step forward and she first looks to Hero. Is he okay?
He definitely has a panicky look about him. You see that he's quite overwhelmed.
On his shoulder, and she quietly says, "Take a deep breath. Just breathe."
Remember, he needs to be able to hear you.
She says, "Take in a deep breath and just breathe." And then she looks to the rest of the room and she steps forward, glancing at each person involved. So between Hero, Roland, and Harper. Okay, she looks between Harper and Roland first, and she goes, "This is surprising, but not entirely unheard of. Very, very rarely in the past, prophecies have changed, depending on circumstances at times. Admittedly, it has been many ages since then." She looks to Administrators and says, "Perhaps you were alive at one point."
Administrators will step forward. "I believe what this means is that Harper is now better to complete the prophecy than Roland is."
More specifically, not better, but more fit.
Or something is preventing Roland from fulfilling his purpose, or he has already done so.
Correct.
It is possible that this will be the last change involved in the prophecy, but potentially there could be even more.
Do you mean at some point all of us?
I believe that this is a more free-flowing prophecy than we had originally thought. It seems to be one that will be lasting for a very long time, and it will adapt itself to what is going on within the process.
So if one of us is not the best fit at the time, we're out.
It seems so.
Out? Roland says. He seems incredulous. I didn't know we could be out. He kind of looks around, his arms sort of seeking somebody to give him some kind of assurance.
Roland, it's not that you were doing anything wrong.
He's going to suddenly
Sometimes
look rather
people
accusingly towards the kings.
Are more fit for certain roles than others, who have the skills necessary.
She means it's not your fault, Harper says, grabbing onto his shoulder and sort of giving him a hearty shake.
She nods.
Euphemia will approach Roland as well and grab his arm. Perhaps this is fate's answer to the dilemma you've been in.
He told us all about that, or did he just tell her?
He's going to say quietly, not so quietly that only you can hear, but that's kind of his intention. He's just not modulating his voice well. This sucks, he says.
Everything about this has sucked for the past. We don't want you gone, Roland.
June nods in agreement.
You're part of this team.
He's going to take off his helmet and sort of run his fingers through his hair. He looks like he was just fired from a very important job. Amanistress is going to realize that there is a sort of stunned paralysis that has taken on the summit. And she's going to quickly turn. The events here are most variable, she says. I think that since we're all here, we should discuss the changes. And I believe it would be most appropriate for you all to discuss the changes amongst yourselves. She says, perhaps you can send us a note with what you all decide to do. She looks specifically at Roland, and then is going to look towards Juniper and Harper, Euphemia, and finally over towards Isaac.
And Hero? Does Hero get left out again?
The plight of the
Hero is behind Harper, and she can't directly see him, but her eyes do flit over Harper. She says, I'm afraid that I'm needed elsewhere for the moment. Perhaps you all may use a side chamber? She says. And you're going to see, she suddenly turns towards, it's her and the Queen of the People. I'm trying to remember her name.
No. I might have totally made that up. I thought it started with an N.
Niv.
No, something.
It is. Give me one moment. I have it written down.
I might have just...
It's not that important.
Now I want to know. It's Nababa.
Fails.
Ooh, that is very useful to have.
Noctel.
Aha, it started with an N.
No, it's not.
That's the Queen of Festivities. That's who leads.
People is Tyrell.
Oh.
Noctel was the one I meant.
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, okay.
The elf. The actress.
Ah, gotcha.
The two of them leave. Juniper, please roll me a DC 24 history check. Isaac, you may roll me the same check, but with disadvantage.
You can do
We'll see. No, I cannot do it.
No.
June was out of it for the time being.
She's been through a lot.
I got an 18.
18?
Yeah!
Okay.
This is my phone.
Was not expecting that. Sorry.
You weirdo.
How about I put you in between us? And that way you can hear us
I need to
better.
be able to hear him.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll
How
just
about we do this?
try to speak up.
We can, yeah. Alright,
I mean, whatever lets me hear Daniel the best is probably the best
Yeah.
spot.
right. Harper is going to nod, casually knowing where the many secret rooms and chambers off this main one are. And he is going to turn to lead the way. Does everybody go? Or is, you know that you had wanted to speak with Zento after the summit was over.
I'm sure I did.
Probably to talk with him about the prophecy.
Yes, she will actually turn to Zento before he leaves and goes,
He's not leaving. He's continuing to speak here with the summit.
yes. She turns to him and says, if we could have a word in a little while, that would probably be best.
What does a little while mean here?
After I speak with my group.
I will see you then, he says. You're going to see that his guards, as much as, like, guards are on standby, his guards seem to be, like, high alert. It is possible he is suspecting some kind of psionic attack. Which is unlikely, but his people wouldn't know that.
Gotcha.
Euphemia will follow. She'll cast a little bit of a hesitant glance at the door that Jossia and the rest of the crew left at, and then follow.
Okay. Isaac, is Prongor here in the building, or did you leave him behind?
I think I remember leading into this, you said that we had to leave him outside. Well, no, he's in the building, but he's not in the audience hall with us.
Okay. So at this point, you can send for him as long as you're going into this room, if you would like to.
Okay, yeah, he'll come with us.
Okay. So you all head into a kind of darkened chamber. The curtains are pulled, so that there is very little light in this place. But Harper is going to go up and sort of like pull one of the golden ropes to pull one curtain aside, and like light will flood on like one half of the room and leave the other half in darkness. The room sort of looks haunted at this moment. But Hero is going to go up and like beleagueredly pull like a chair with all of his might, and then like climb up into it and like sit heavily down in it. Roland has much a similar appearance to his sitting. He looks like he's exhausted. But as everybody sits, unless one of you doesn't want to.
June is going to just stand leaning up against the wall for the time being. Or stand, and she kind of sits halfway on the table. You know how you kind of turn sideways and just kind of sit?
Euphemia will sit because otherwise, if she just stood, you probably couldn't see her well over
She'd
the
be
table.
peeking over the table.
What about Isaac?
Adorable.
Isaac walks in and Prongor kind of like pulls a seat out for him, and he sits down.
Alright. Prongor seems the only one to be delighted in this moment, and he has rejoined the master and is able to sort of join into the conversation. You alright? Harper says across the table to Roland. I don't know, he says. Here's my proposal, Harper says. I think we get the hell out of here and go to the White Boar. We have a couple of drinks, talk this all over, and decide on something outside of this boiler pot.
You want us to make decisions while we're inebriated.
I didn't say you had to drink, just that I had to.
I'll join you in that.
Besides, I'm pretty sure with our cadre of powers, we should be fine to get over a little drunkenness. What do you say, Isaac?
Being in the Capitol building for this long is making me nervous for some reason, so I think that sounds great.
And June, you have specifically noted that he has gotten the answer of. He's going to also ask Hero. Hero's gonna look up, rather startled that he wasn't like the last person asked. And he goes, "I've never been to the White Boar. I've always wanted to go." He looks across to Roland.
I'd like to grab my crew, though. I'd like them to come. They care about Roland, too, you know.
We're going to need a big table, Harper says. I don't think I'd be a help. I think I'd bum everybody out.
We're already bummed out.
Roland, even though you're not part of the prophecy anymore, does not mean we do not value your decisions, your opinions, and your knowledge. I think you'd still be a valuable asset.
Roll a DC 20 persuasion check.
Anybody want to aid?
Nope.
I'll aid you because that was the driest attempt at coercing someone into a drink that I have ever heard.
What?
He said it was dry. You were dry.
I wasn't trying to coerce him. She's trying to comfort him. And
Okay, that was the driest attempt at comforting I've ever heard.
that's fair. That's totally fair.
June's been through some stuff recently.
Only a 17.
It's not you guys, it's me. I don't think I'm going to be...
Are you breaking up with us?
Excuse me.
No.
Roland, come get a drink. We don't know what
I
is
don't
coming.
drink.
Okay, then come spend time with us. We don't know what's coming next.
Roll persuasion.
Okay. We're good. Okay. 15.
Hero's going to look across the way at you, and he's going to kind of like... I think it's best if I don't, he says. And he's going to turn and rather harshly storm out. You can see that he's almost on the verge of tears when he leaves.
That went well, she says.
He might join us later, Harper says. He just needs some time.
Time to wallow?
This was his
Time
first
to
prophecy.
acclimate. Everybody deals with things differently.
I just always find it strange that he blasts through everything else in a fight and then he runs into something like this and it's...
Roland is still quite young. He's still learning.
He's got a tender heart.
We know.
I guess you do.
That heart's gonna be a lot to lose in this team.
We're not losing him, he says. He's just playing a different role. You're all going to see in Harper's eyes that he is trying to keep it light. But there is a distaste for this situation. An old man being dragged out of his house.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really happy with the current situation, but yes.
So, you know what? I do have an idea, he says. He's going to go over to the edge of the wall, and he's going to pull out like a dagger and sort of like make a couple of small movements with it in the air. All right. Shadow's on our way to help him, he says.
Good.
You all ready to go?
I have a question. Did he intentionally ask everybody except for June?
It looked like he was waiting for last to ask you and then kind of got lost in the process.
You know how much he loves godmothers.
Yes. She's just feeling out the situation and she's taking a note.
You think it was more that he just didn't get around to it?
That's still something. Okay. June doesn't look like she took offense or anything, but it's kind of hard to read her face.
As he walks towards the door, he's going to kind of like stop. You coming, godmother?
She smirks as she's already walking past. Of course, hero. She said it with a lowercase h, not the name hero.
Okay. Hero's going to look over and be like, what? And then...
The adjective. Actually, that's not an adjective, is it? I guess it's a noun.
Mm-hmm.
Noun, not proper noun, she would say.
That is the difference between the two, isn't it? A proper noun's capitalized.
Mm-hmm. It's a
As-
named place, person, or thing.
Grammar lessons with Juniper.
Well, I
As-
failed first, so it's okay.
As you guys go to open the door, you are going to open it to a Manistress and Noctel, who are like stepping up to like knock on the door. You are maybe a half a hallway from the main meeting chamber, and you can hear the voices of rather intense talk drifting down this way, but just barely. As they see you, a Manistress is going to take a step back, and Noctel, who is a very cheerful and good-humored woman, is going to step forward. Usually she's the one to have a smile on whenever a new person comes before the kings, sort of the one they use to cool down tense situations. And at this moment, she is very stern. She's going to step forward. I apologize. May we speak to Euphemia and Juniper? Immediately, please.
Euphemia looks straight at Juniper.
She goes, well, I guess we'll catch up to you at the whiteboard.
She says, I apologize to the rest of the group, as she is going to quickly turn, and the two of them almost jog back down the hallway, not to the main chamber, but to a separate side hallway.
Are they, getting us to follow them that quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
Euphemia will have asked them to pick up the crew on the way to the whiteboard before she hightailed it after.
Yeah, insight.
You may. Isaac, as you begin to walk out, Prongor is going to say,
I'm changing dice today. Screw
Oh,
that.
Master, the White Boar! I've heard so much about it. It's legendary as bars go.
I have a feeling that dice is going to get me killed today. So.
I wonder if they have Mudflap.
Oh, God, no! Smelly, awful things. Not there.
I asked Prongor,
Gives me flashbacks.
where have you heard of the White Dwarf? Did they talk about it in Selenox?
He says, It is renowned as a tavern of great food and
Set
good
it down to the
company,
exact same
and
number.
one of many heroes, he says. It's well known in Garen, and everybody seems to talk about it all the time.
I see.
Just the other day, when we were
Okay.
when you were
Responsibilities.
sleeping, I went down to speak with the castle guard, and they were talking about it then.
It sounds like they probably have quite the extensive menu, but maybe not that extensive.
He says, I hear their drink selection is some of the best in Mythia.
Ah, well,
And as
with your taste in drinks, I'd be surprised if they have... Well, no. They probably likely have what you like.
He says, "Let's hope so, Master. And additionally, now that we're heroes," he says the word kind of like you guys have gained a title. He goes, "we should be able to sit up in the exclusive upper bar where only those who have gained notoriety sit. We will be able to look down on all the common folk, Master," he says, kind of rubbing his hands together.
As it should be, am I right?
You all are then interrupted in your conversation by the queens,
Kings.
the kings of Giran, and Euphemia and Juniper run off down the hallway. Harper is going to drop back to Isaac and Hero. "Well, boys, you want to catch a coach?"
That would be wonderful. I've grown wary of walking the streets at this hour.
"Well, we could take Russ if we want," he says. "Your raccoon bear?" Hero says. "He's reliable to get a cart where it needs to go." "A little bit of a bumpy ride, though, if you're used to silky smooth ones," he says, looking at Isaac.
I'd always prefer Russ over the alternative.
"All right, then. Set out the back." As the two of you are brought into a side hallway, Noctel is going to turn towards you. "I trust you both can keep this with the utmost secrecy," she says. "I am not just the king of festivities. I am the king of spies," she says. "There are tunnels that go through this castle. Josiah is on his way to the teleportation room. He attempted to attack Garen just now.
Are we surprised?
He was
Gold.
a failure in his endeavor. However, we have a unique opportunity here. These tunnels," she says, and she's going to go up to several bricks and touch them in a specific order, which she covers from Jennifer's eyes. There is like a Harry Potter-esque like movement of the bricks, and it's going to separate. She says, "We're made for halflings. They are spy network tunnels, able to go most anywhere in the castle. One of the junctions gets very close to one of the tunnels that Josiah is going to have to take to get back to the teleportation chamber. You have an opportunity. One, to get close enough to touch him. It is dangerous, and it comes with great risk. But we would like to return the favor that he just performed to us.
I'd be glad to help.
How can we do it?
You will need to become small, like a halfling, and enter these tunnels. She'll immediately begin to make it's about 8 steps long list of instructions to go down these tunnels to get to the place. She tells you that there'll be a specific rune on the wall. It'll be of the two-headed eagle. And that is the junction you wait at. Josiah and his guards will walk by, and by the standard Aragothian defense pattern, they will form a barricade around him with a wall to his back. And right then, if everything goes well, you will be able to see him and touch him. But it's going to be a chance.
How well lit are the tunnels?
The tunnels are just large enough for a halfling to go one abreast in.
The tunnels he's going through, I mean.
Oh, his tunnel is enough to fit 3 people abreast.
How well lit is it? Sorry.
Oh, by braziers.
Okay.
If you accept this, of course, there are great risks. His bodyguard Shade should be able to go through such solid objects as walls. If you are discovered, you may be attacked.
Which one is Shade? Is that the one that can read?
No.
No.
Shade is...
That one didn't come. Okay.
She is empowered by darkness.
Gotcha.
And she's very loyal.
She would be an assassin.
Okay. Is that the only special bodyguard he brought, or...
The others are sages of some sort, older men. They don't seem to be spellcasters, though.
Did Euphemia in her fights before with Shade glean anything in particular about her powers? I'm trying to remember.
She seems to be able to become shadow stuff and jump through objects and sort of reform her body on the other side of them. And she seems to be able to make a large pole arm with like two big like spikes, sort of like a pitchfork, out of shadow stuff at will.
Could she make anything out of shadows, or was that mostly what Yuffie went
She
into?
seemed to just be able to make that specific weapon.
Okay. She would convey that information very quickly to you.
Do I know anything different about anything?
You know that Shade was brought up in Josia's, like, special ascended training program. Like, it's like a mind control / like assassin training school. And that she was one of the few people to survive it, to get to the end. She's extremely loyal. And it's a very one-sided relationship.
So, best thing to do would be able to take her out for a commission for a brief period of time.
Or to not let them see you do anything.
How can she touch?
So there are, like, decorative muralistic slits in the wall. Enough for a halfling hand to get through.
But you said it was a hallway that is wide enough for me to be 3 abreast. So
Right. So they're going to have to wait for the door to open, and standard Aragothian procedure says that Jossie will place his back to a wall. And the
okay.
guards
Sorry, I
will
missed
So
follow
that
reach
part.
out through the wall.
I missed
I'm
that part.
understanding
Okay.
now. Okay.
But you will need stealth in order to succeed.
Yuffie's got a lot of that.
I can give myself that.
Do you guys choose to undertake this optional chance?
Yes.
No, who cares about Josia? It's like, just let him go do his thing. He's fine. He's living his best life.
Yeah. She forgives
he
him.
probably is.
He won't be for long.
No, not anymore.
No.
Unexpected help on that front. Yes, June will agree to this. She immediately takes the form of a slight, athletic built female halfling.
Good luck. Manister says to both of you, as you both sweep into the tunnel to follow the instructions.
I'd like to cast Pass Without Trace.
As you walk into the tunnel, Juniper is going to whisper several words under her breath, and suddenly your steps leave no track, and a very little sound, if any at all, comes from your feet and movements. You gain a +10 bonus to stealth.
I thought that would be helpful for, me.
Out of game, where's her cards?
Where's her what?
Her cards.
Do you not have them?
Mm-mm.
They're over here. Here.
Thank you.
All right. So, both of you need to roll. Well, actually, I'm going to allow an auto success on the memorization of the passage because Juniper has perfect memory.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Come now.
you guys are going to take many tunnels very quickly. The only light comes through thin slits in the wall. From the outside, they look as though they are completely, there is no gap to a wall behind it. They are built in such a way that there is an illusion. You can reach your hand straight up and then bend it out of these slits. It was used, apparently, in older days to pickpocket specific people going through the castle.
Can you see through it as well if you've got your hand through it?
You can see through it from this side, but not the other one. The light, the darkness in here is the reason you can see through it. Light shining on it from the outside makes it look like it's a solid wall with cuts in it. The lighting in these hallways is kept at a very specific level so as to allow this illusion to take place.
One other question I had. I need to write this down. For Satan's Guilt, what are the negatives in terms of movement? I know there were a couple of negative aspects to it.
Can't fly. No, that's one of them.
I know that's one of them. But I was more concerned whether, because it makes you kind of feel heavier and more weighty, that it could impact your stealthiness.
So you cannot fly through any means. And it pushes you down to the ground if you do. Fall damage is doubled.
Okay.
And you cannot reduce or stop fall damage with the spell. And you always become prone when you land on the ground.
Just so we're all aware, I used wish points to cast that because it is a druid spell, and I remember that now.
The guilt cannot be hidden under any object. If one attempts to hide it, it removes the obstruction as it desires. And while worn, you can teleport as an action from one shadow you are completely shaded within to another within sight, which in this tunnel would be anywhere you can see in the tunnel, because it's all shaded.
So if she's in, just to clarify, if she's in the shadow of something right now, could she teleport to another shadow within the tunnel that Jossia is in? I just want to clarify that.
So Jossia's tunnel will be lit, but it could have shadows in it that you could potentially get out of, depending on the circumstances.
That's just what I want to clarify. Okay.
So both shadows need to be large enough to take your body.
Yeah, but she's tiny.
You have disadvantage on deception and stealth, and if you cast an illusion spell, creatures have both disadvantage on checks to determine if it's real and saving throws against it. And if you deliver the final blow to a creature, you gain temporary hit points equal to the challenge rating of the creature.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. The light gives a strange, almost dreamlike quality to your movements through this tunnel. As you move, it's a little hot back here, as there's almost no breeze. And you can see the shadows of guards and other people, servants, moving throughout the hallways, completely unawares that you're moving right next to them. You see people like you're looking out of the shadow world, the shadow realm, into the world of light. It's a claustrophobic and rather intense moment. And then you both spot the two-headed eagle, carved very small into the area just above where the slats are that you can see through. This is where you wait.
Is there any sight of anything right now?
You can see the sort of almost water-like shadows of the braziers outside on the far wall. And you believe you can hear some armored boots coming this way. When you see Jossia and his entourage turn around the corner, you realize you have made it within 10 seconds of him arriving.
Should she take his life?
It wouldn't be permanent, though. No. You should take something that you could,
He won't know. Well,
I think you should take the knowledge
I know.
about the crown.
Or like a memory or something. Yeah.
But specifically about how he's moving around, where he hid the crown, because nobody knows that.
So the slats give you interrupted views. It's difficult to see him as he moves. The slats they only show small little bits, so you would need to move up and down in order to see him. So, initially, I need a DC 14 stealth check.
I rolled a 23 total.
Okay.
Because I
I
have
don't
a plus
think you
10.
can fail a DC 14.
I don't think
You also have a plus 10.
Yeah, that's what I
so,
mean.
yeah.
I rolled a 1, but I can re-roll. It's fine.
Good. Delightful.
Okay, there we go.
Julian
Then
is
Hey, we
covering
both
his
did
eye
12.
with his hand,
22.
shaking his head.
plus, hold on. 22 plus 12, so
22
34.
plus 12, 34. Yeah. So you both are
We
completely
both rolled
silenced
12,
behind the
and
wall
you get a 34.
and under the guise of magic. as
Would they be aware I cast this on them if I use it? Can it be used in such a way that it appears to be a distraction?
Does it have a verbal component?
It is.
Ah.
So I would give you a disadvantage DC 20 stealth check in order to make that.
Gotcha. This is just in case of emergencies.
Actually, I'd make it DC 16. All right. Jossia, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I was just going to talk to Sarah. So the problem is that whatever I steal, it only lasts for 10 minutes.
That's why you get the knowledge.
Does it matter if somebody doesn't know it's missing? If they are unaware that something is missing, but want it back, but they don't know it's missing. I've always kind of been confused about that.
People have been able to take things back. Like, if they're unconscious, they still take back their consciousness.
Right.
So people innately want to bring things back to themselves.
So it'll go back after 10 minutes.
Well, yes, but you would still know that information.
Yes.
Technically, if she just reaches her hand in him, she can feel all he is.
Yes.
It probably would be disruptive to them if he didn't realize what his plans were for 10 minutes straight, though.
That would be hilarious.
So,
I know what I'm going to do.
as they move, they're going to stop. You are standing adjacent to an L-shaped hallway. They just came from the upper part of the L. And you can't see what's at the end of the lower part of the L. But you know from vague description that there is a door that leads to the teleportation room. Jossia is going to look down the hallway and then is going to gesture to his guards with his head in such a way that it suggests that there's like a military-style pattern happening. Jossia, yes.
How many wish points would it cost to make a verbal component non-verbal?
2.
Okay, thank you. What? I mean, that could be really helpful.
Jossia is going to
Could be.
gesture his head and then turn lightly to one of the sages, and he says something quietly. To hear what he says, it's a DC 14 perception check.
I believe in us.
I
I don't. I hear nothing.
Perception, you said?
What is
Yes.
up with 4s today? I'm
13. 13. Are you serious? 13.
It's better than my 6.
I hate everything. I hate everyone.
Have
Wait,
you
hold
used
on.
any wish points?
I'm sorry?
Did you use wish points
I have used them in the past so far.
this round?
No.
You could give a +1 bonus to that for a wish point to allow it to succeed.
Ping.
All right. So June is going to like lightly lay her hand on you, and you feel the noise sort of amplify very slightly. Jossie is going to lean over and whisper, "Detect magic. I don't want to be caught unawares."
I'm trying to think of how she can convey that to June.
Well, it's kind of obvious when somebody casts a spell.
It is, but technically, if it's his turn and he casts the spell, you wouldn't be able to react to it.
It's fair.
Unless you counterspell him, which he would know.
So can you see Euphemia's face really
Yeah.
well? She'll just mouth it.
She immediately dispels her spell.
Roll an initiative versus this guy.
Alright, come on, dice. Stop freaking rolling 4s. Seriously.
He rolls a 16.
My fucking god. Excuse my language. It didn't roll a 4!
It rolled a 5! Your dice are not happy today.
He gets first.
All right. He is going to turn and
Hey! No.
so I'm going to roll. On a roll of 15 or up, he is momentarily interrupted before he's able to cast the spell by somebody else asking him something.
Nice. It's definitely not gonna work.
He is going to cast a detect magic.
But then again, he's gonna detect all. Well, does it only detect magic? Or can it detect magical items?
It can. I'm gonna read it now.
Actually,
if that's the case,
we're both screwed, probably.
yeah, he's gonna read all kinds of crap from that.
Although she's got fated items, which aren't magical. So she's still kind of... She don't got no magic.
I got magic items.
You got all the magic.
I am magic.
You are magic, it's true. Could you feed? No. She wouldn't have time to respond.
Okay. So this is hilarious.
Oh god.
So the spell specifically states two things. One, it works on visible creatures and objects.
Oh.
And two, the spell can penetrate most barriers, but is blocked by 1 foot of stone. So he is going to make a perception check with advantage versus your all stealth. You have disadvantage. If both of you succeed, he will not see your auras because you are hidden technically behind stone, but it is slatted.
Okay, I'm watching you, buddy.
So you have the +10 because you didn't lower the spell yet, and he has advantage. You guys have disadvantage.
Okay, not bad.
He rolls a 15 total.
Give me a second, I'm getting another dice out for just
30.
30.
Oh, thank God. Okay. I'm good. I'm over 20.
All right.
It
So
wasn't a 4.
he is going to turn, and June, you immediately see the fingers, and he's going to whisper quietly the words of detect magic. And then he's going to look. He first looks down the way that they came, and then you see his eyes sort of turn and look across the wall swiftly. He's going to nod affirmatively towards Jasia, but you see he keeps the spell on. He's going to continue for its concentration.
You probably see both of us just release like a silent...
So if you don't drop the spell, he will get a chance to do that every round.
She drops it.
Okay. As you drop the magic... Jesus Christ.
Is Jasia within reaching range?
In the time that he has cast the spell, Jasia is going to move to stand a foot away from you guys on the other side of the wall. And his guards will form a small ring around him and sort of put these tower shields into the ground.
How long is her arm?
Just long enough.
You can do fingertips. Good job.
So, Yuffie, if you want to scooch your way to him, it is an advantaged DC 20 stealth check to get into position. If you want to just see him, it's a DC 14 dex check. You can't do both at once. You can't see him through the wall because you have to kind of bend down to get to your hand.
Right.
So, without a verbal component, can I do this without him noticing?
So he is currently detecting magic. He would get the same check against that spell
Fair.
that he is getting all the time.
Fair.
She wants to hit the knowledge of his plans from him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing, you're going straight for the hand.
The most important information is still where his crown is, though.
If she reaches her hand into him, then she should be able to see all that he is.
Is that how you're running that?
That is correct.
You just specifically said you're not seeing, you're just doing that.
Seeing with her eyes.
Because she can detect the heart
So
from a
it is,
distance.
it's easier to use her her see the heart ability by roll than it is to do the other one.
Okay.
So she could do the see the heart first in case she fails the second one, which is the harder of the two.
Fuck. Sorry, language.
It's all right. It's an intense situation.
Mm.
It's your choice.
She can't let this. Okay. Try see the heart first.
DC 14 Dex check.
You can do it. You can do it.
Advantaged?
You do have advantage, yes.
Okay.
How close did it get?
Didn't roll very well.
Yeah, but
So just straight dex? Not
Just dex.
Okay. 13.
13.
give her +1.
All right, a wish point. You
This
have
is
not used a
something
wish
I
point
want.
this round, so... Alright, you are going to, like, lean your head up against the wall, and you can see just, like, his arm and hand through the slats as he
June
points.
sees you not quite reaching far enough, and she brushes against you, and you feel like you sort of stretch just a little bit further.
It feels like a little, like, heels, like, raise you up a little bit, so you can see easier through the gap. Okay. There's no failure state here. You
Right.
just you either fail to see, or and he doesn't. Nobody like finds out anything. So it's a DC 15 perception check, just straight up.
Okay. Come
Good
on.
luck.
I feel like you just destroyed my chances.
Because she said he's a good luck.
Well, give it to Sarah then. Or something.
No, my luck is shit right now.
Perception, you said?
Perception, yes.
16.
Okay, a very important check. You get the three foremost thoughts on his mind.
Right.
The foremost thing on his mind. He is thinking of his failed plot, the magic needle, and his fury at Amanistress's interruption. The second most important thing on his mind. He is considering the fate of his sons, Ace and Pitt. He sent a vial of poison to Piercy using magic, while his needle broke the magic seal on the castle.
Does she see why he sent it?
He's not thinking about that. Okay. The third most important thing, he is considering his next plotting steps for Farmwatch, how to spin what happened and blame the godmothers for interference. He is rehearsing his words to the elders when they get back to the Iron Throne. This event could potentially put a damper on the relationship between the two nations if not played out properly.
Is she able to commit those words he's rehearsing to memory?
So, it's a very politician's speech. He is effectively going to lay it on pretty thick with boogeymanning the foreign kings. He's definitely going to use the fact that he's a human, and most of them are either married to non-humans or are not humans themselves. And is going to suggest that the godmothers have outsized power in the situation, and that their wish magic, as he knows it, basically can do whatever he wants as long as he can convince people about it. It is the ultimate boogeyman, and he has used it successfully for years.
So nothing new, though, in that regard.
He is going to play on the old fears in his book,
Gotcha.
the same as he always does. He just needs to do it in a finessing way, and probably do some break down his very tough demeanor to sort of like be a little more soft. Maybe offer them a better trade deal or something.
Okay. Does she gain anything else?
Those are his three main thoughts. You do gain the vaguest notion that he knows where Ace... He thinks he knows where Ace is, and that he believes he is near Aragoth at the moment.
Does she get any feeling of affection for his sons, or is it just...
You do gain a sense of pride, yes.
They're both
But
little shits, so it
also-
makes sense.
Disappointment. You do see, like, a slip of a thought of them both sort of like it's sort of like almost a portrait of him, like, sitting on the Iron Throne, and then, like, both of them just, like, slightly lower than he is, in, like, similar-looking thrones, sort of, like, ruling together, but in his mind, that's, like, a phantom. Like, sort of a desire that will never be met. Because they're both inept.
One of them also is fated to murder all kings, so...
Okay.
There's that.
You'll see at one point, as she's staring extremely intently, her eyes widen at points several times. She blinks back to herself. She kind of regains herself for a moment, and then she prepares herself to try to reach into him.
Okay.
Is there any way I can aid her in this?
Through wishes. Unless you would like to take the opportunity that Detect Magic will see you.
Alright, now.
All right.
Ruin everything right
Mhm.
away.
It is a DC 20 stealth check with advantage to touch him successfully. There's other checks beyond that, but that's the one.
Stealth check
DC 20
with advantage.
with advantage.
I can do it.
Come on, let the power of the dice be true. Please, 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 please.
The power of dice compels you.
It's like the heart of the dice.
Heart of the dice.
Come
Leave
on.
in the heart of the dice!
Ah, please. Yes.
Oh, thank
yes. Yes. Okay. 26.
All right. So, I'm going to have you roll the rest, even though you do gain information.
Okay.
Very important information, in fact. Extremely valuable information. But whether
There's probably a
he
cost.
feels you go through his clothes is very important. So, it is a sleight of hand check. DC 20, no advantage. And you cannot gain advantage on it.
I was gonna say, can I wish her giving advantage?
No. If he feels you, he's going to act on it. Good luck.
Thank you. So I can't use inspiration, nothing. It's got to be flat. Okay.
You basically have to, like, slither your hand through his clothes without being able to see them.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
She rolled really well.
Okay. Sleight of hand,
Yes.
29.
29!
Yes, you get 4 5s.
What the
17
fuck?
plus 12.
Jesus Christ.
Oh
All
my
right.
god.
Oh, yeah.
My heart's pounding over here a little bit.
I was sitting here like...
Okay, so here's what's up. I will tell you the information that you gain.
Okay.
The problem is Jossia is going to move seconds after you touch him to go and move towards the door. So you can't you can't, like, sit there and hold on it and, like, go through all of him. So you sort of gain a blast of stuff. I will let you do 2 questions and the information that I give you.
Can she get the information you give her first?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. You see an unbelievably arrogant man. A very, now that you see all of him, mundane and small man. One who is driven by petty jealousies, the desire to be more powerful and seen as all-powerful.
So, hyper-Napoleon complex. Gotcha.
one who has meetings on how best to pit people against one another, turning bureaucracy and autocracy against his own people to the best of his ability. You see first, I need to know, where would Yuffie's mind go first to check? Would it go to your past to get answers, to the present to find out more about him, or to his collection of secrets, quote unquote?
The first question in her mind is going to go to her past, and specifically her sister, and what any information he has about that.
Okay.
Just instinctively.
I figured as much.
Then you learn several things. You see that Josiah had wanted to find a way in his mind to clean up the slums, and he needed an excuse. Your assassination attempt was the excuse that he used, though he was only weeks from committing to the idea without it. Your assassination did not cause it. It was merely an excuse to do it early. He has used that particular incident to fuel a change towards two races in particular in Aragoth, the Halfling and the Tiefling, who he sees as disgusting mongrels. The Halfling he sees as innately Girin for some reason. In his mind, Halfling equals Girin. And he thinks that if he's going to have people rise up against him, it's going to be Halflings. So he wanted to put them down. And he sees Tieflings, with their devilish heritage, as possessing some kind of innate resistance to his rule. And that he worries that some kind of magical mental block in the people will prevent him from ordering them appropriately. So he wants to weaken both races. So he pit them against one another. He sends basically plainclothes agents into both sectors of their slums to paint the Halflings to the Tieflings as thieves, and to the Tieflings as the Halflings, or to the Halflings as the Tieflings. He paints them as tricksters and assassins.
So playing on kind of the common...
Yes, stoking gang wars and violence between the two races. The next thing you see, because you're searching in this vein, is a terrible secret. You see that about a year after your assassination attempt, Josiah had sent guards to question Seraphina and Pearl.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot your stepmom's name was Seraphina too.
Yep.
However, a new, potent, mind-reading captain of the guard came under his service, and he went back to several old, sort of cold case files. One of them was your family. He sent that guard to your house, and Seraphina was thrown under the bus by Pearl. Pearl used that to get in Josiah's good graces. She is a heartless, conniving, wicked noble. Better and more clever than Seraphina ever was. And in this very moment, she is using her knowledge of you to trick you into coming to Aragoth for Josiah's purposes. She was standing in the palace when she wrote the note, and they discussed the language that would most cause you pain. And she is currently has a very strict regimen where she stays within the walls of a magically blocked house so that her story can seem the most plausible to you in case you try to contact her through scrying.
Ooh.
It is all a ploy and a trap. And she is one of his most valuable informants. And he admires her ruthlessness. I need to know how Euphemia reacts to that.
Euphemia feels devastated to see yet more evidence of what she turned Pearl into. However, overriding all of that is the sense, at least she's alive. And as long as she's alive, there's a chance. You would probably see, like, a little bit of a tear track if you can see her face. She won't make a
Honestly,
sound.
She's probably watching the surroundings more than she's watching your face right now, just to make sure she can block any.
Her
attempt to
face
see
is
you.
going to be wet. And yeah.
Additionally, you will learn about Operation Glass Crown. Josiah does not wear the Crown of Kings. Instead, many thousands of years before you attacked him, on Dominus's advice, Josiah made a complete and total replica of the throne room and buried it underneath what is the current throne room. So his real throne room is underneath the throne room that you entered when you tried to assassinate him. It is buried beneath the floor of his current throne room. And it is exactly the same. The stairs that went up were slightly more angled originally and were completely rebuilt to be slightly higher, to go to a 10 degrees higher room. And the crown sits underneath the floor in his current throne room, sitting on the original throne. It is underneath 5 feet of stone in every direction, and mixed into the mortar with which they built that ceiling and the floor is basically every anti-magic, anti-magical creature barrier that they could put. There is no teleportation that can go in that room, and it is blocked off from the Shadow Realm. The only way that he knows to enter it is to take a sledgehammer to the floor and dig your way in through the rock.
Or,
So they rebuilt the seal around the entire room.
yes.
Digging upwards is about 25 feet through rock.
Yes, but it's also not in the throne room.
True.
Just saying.
So Josiah has a connection with the crown. After about 1,000 years, it became to where he could separate himself from the crown, and it would still allow him to access all his abilities. So when he dies, his body turns to dust, and he reforms like a lich in that room, and then has to get out of the room by having his guards undig him and then rebuild this floor. But there is a spell scroll in the room to allow him to meld stone, so he can jump up into the wall and pull himself through. It's like a specially crafted spell scroll.
That was a tsunami of information.
Right.
And we still get 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
You do get 2 questions.
Sorry. It's okay. She would want to know any information about that, his plot against Garen, like the more details about the needle and what he was attempting and everything like that.
So you actually gained most of that when you looked at him. So you know that the needle was like a magical artifact that could cut through the anti-magic barrier around the castle, and the artifacts that he left on the table when he gifted them back, kind of as a slight, those were to lure in creatures of darkness into the castle and infect his sages who had magical tattoos on them.
So if she already gained that, she wouldn't ask them.
You don't need
what does he know about anything related to the pirates in terms of,
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So you remember when, at the very beginning, those merfolk attacked the town and stole those barrels? Jossia sent them to do that.
He's a motherfucker.
Wait, is he allied with the merfolk?
Yes.
Is he allied with the Empress?
Well, if he's allied with the merfolk, he's allied with the Empress.
Jossia made a deal before the campaign began with the merfolk. He was angry that Selenox would not trade him exploding powder. So he decided to send spies to find out the route that the boat took to get the exploding powder to other cities. And he saw that it stopped off in the town.
Yep.
And
Dang,
so,
I was hoping you were going to say it because I can't remember it.
I can't remember either.
Do you remember, Julian?
what the starting,
The
battle
big
town...
fight?
I remember
Hang on, I can
round
go
about
back
where
to,
it was.
I can go back to, the very beginning.
Yeah.
Wasn't it over here somewhere?
No, it's farther over.
Was it?
Yeah, it's close, but it was on the water, and it was beyond. It was near in the forest area. Ignis' arm.
Eh?
It was nearer to Ignis' arm.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it.
It's not important at the moment.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll look it up later and reinsert it in my notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go.
So Jossia spoke with a messenger of the Empress and made a deal. The deal was, I will not engage any merfolk in my territory. And in exchange, you will go to this town and steal barrels of gunpowder for me, for my ships.
So it just happened to be really crappy luck on everybody's part. Gotcha.
But Jossia never planned to keep his word.
Of course.
And when the merfolk did come back, he immediately blew them away and took the one barrel because he was insulted by their
So he pissed them
They're
off,
loot.
so now they're probably going to go after him even harder. That works.
They
Their
will
mouth
perhaps
is
after they
difficult.
destroy the pirates.
Yes. Priorities, but...
Was there anything else related to the pirates that he was aware of?
No, Jossia doesn't deal much with the pirates. He considers them like a nuisance. But one that maybe he could turn in his favor. But he can't quite grasp what Ronan, what he's doing, because he doesn't know that he's a good guy.
That would put a distinct twist on your thought process and planning. You don't know your motivations.
The other thing she'd be asking is what he knows about fate breaking, the prophecy, the crown, Yandasi's crown.
So
Location of the crown, for instance.
he knows enough to know that it's true.
Darn. Okay.
He has gained enough, head-scratching problems that are explained by fate breaking. And Aragoth is suffering as much as anybody else. But Josiah doesn't care about any of that. He wants to use it in the chaos to sort of lower Giran as much as possible. You do see that if he did catch you, he would declare war on Alirna as a punishment to Giran for your transgressions.
So, as she is sitting there and absorbing this information, she's coming on the realization that no matter how much she wants to screw with him, she's not going to try to take anything. She wants to just pull her hand back with the information that she's absorbed and let them go on their way as if nothing had happened.
Good call.
Oh, there is one piece of the puzzle that you don't get to have. Josiah has an ascendant, one who is very valuable to him, and he was going to use to capture your entire group. This ascendant is a man, an old human man, who is able to, as long as he knows your name and can see you, he can write in a book about you, and you will do what he writes.
Whoa.
So the plan was to find where you guys were and have this guy, disarm all of you and make you, useless. And, throw yourselves to the ground naked and prone. And then his guards would move in on you. And they would also, this guy can make you talk. All he has to do is write that you begin to spill all your truths. And you'll begin to just do so.
When you say can see you, so he's got to be within visual
Yes.
sight.
So they have several towers set up through the city that he is specifically meant to use for this purpose.
Does it matter if you're wearing obstructive clothing? Does he have to see your face?
No, he just has to know it's you.
That's the next question I was going to ask.
The only thing they were worried about is they weren't sure it would work on Juniper. So Josiah set about... He spent 400 years trying to figure out what Juniper is. Or what the godmothers are particularly. He knows that Juniper is important in their system, but he doesn't know anything more than that. He doesn't know what she is. And Dominus has held the information back from him, and it was kind of their fracture point that he wouldn't tell Dominus wouldn't tell Josiah what Juniper is.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So Josiah basically made a giant magical prison. It's like a giant glass orb that it shoots with lightning, and it's he thinks it could probably keep Potjack. So they're pretty sure it can keep Juniper.
You can try.
And they're going to experiment on her if he gets her to figure out what she is. But he's really worried about wishes. He's his paranoia about wishes because he doesn't know what they are and they seem extremely powerful. So he was going to be he was going to make a clone of himself to enter the room and interrogate her without him being there because he thinks that wishes might be able to separate him from the crown.
They might eventually.
Maybe.
Additionally, he has a breeding program. He
I'm
wants
already writing that
Roland to be his stud in this breeding program really badly. He believes that ascended fates are genetic, and that having the right stable of heroes and ascended, he would be able to create an army to match Giran's stable of heroes. And that's what he wants. He's been doing that for 600 years, trying to match and mix, and Shade is one of those. She was stabled by him in a breeding program.
I don't know if I'm out of things I'm allowed to ask about.
You can go and ask him, we'll see.
I was just going to ask if there was, while she was going through his plots that he, things like that, did she see anybody else referenced in those plots, that she might recognize, say within Giran, who could be a collaborator?
Like a spy?
Yeah, if there were any hints of somebody he was working with while he was going through those plots.
So Josiah doesn't attend to a lot of like minute details like that.
Yeah.
He has spy networks that he actually doesn't even know what they all do. And he relies a lot on the crown to maintain loyalty from all these different factions. His entire network would break without the crown. Because he wouldn't be able to trust anybody. He'd grow paranoid.
So, theoretically speaking, could Harper cut his connection to the crown?
So he'd have to see the crown to do it.
I thought he could see the threads.
Oh, right. He could. It's a very strong thread. It would be difficult to saw through.
But he
technically could do it,
if
yes.
he, just caught it.
But Harper's powers last even less time than Euphemia's do.
Yeah, but
So,
if we catch
At like the right
Josiah,
moment, it could be very
cut
helpful.
it and then just murder Josiah, he couldn't connect back to the crown, and he would just, die, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I like this plan.
I like this plan too.
The last thing I'll give you is that he knows that Shade is like Stockholm Syndrome in love with him.
Yep.
And he uses that in an abusive and awful way. Like, she absolutely hates him as well and wants to, like, be him.
I want her to murder him.
He uses that... He, like, likes to play with that, like, in, like, a sadistic way. And she once they had, like, a special poison that was supposed to, like, kill angels. And she pointed the crossbow at him. And she said that she would do it. And he kind of laughed, and she said, "I'm the one holding the crossbow." And he said, "But your fingers are mine." So sick. And she didn't do it. So that's what you get.
Wow.
And suddenly, they're gone. As quickly as they came. The door opens, and they travel through, and it shuts behind them very quickly.
Euphemia will just sit back.
I take it worked? Wait, why did I just have...
You have Soren's accent
I was
on.
like, crap, wrong character. Give me a moment. I take it worked?
Yeah. And you'll see like another tear fall down.
She furrows her brows as she looks at you, and are you alright?
We've got a lot to sort through. We need to get back.
Yes. Do you want to wait till we get to the board to talk about it, or...
Now.
Come on. We'll go back and use the same room.
Isaac. "It's quite a bumpy ride, isn't it, Mr. Harper?" he says, as you all feel this, like, the-thump of the... So the ropes, the length of rope is, like, pulling, and you see that the raccoon bear, like, pulls really hard, and then the cart starts to go faster than the raccoon bear, and then it, like, catches up, and, like, the cart keeps, like, pulling in such a way where you feel this, like, constant, like, back tug going up your spine.
That's funny. Was it like that the last time you gave us a ride?
You guys, I don't think you guys have ridden with... Oh, you did ride with Russ. So, yes. But you noticed less because it was very beneficial to you to get on Russ at that time.
Yeah. It's quite rustic, wouldn't you say? Refreshing.
Excellent one, Master,
Wow.
he says. Harper is going to, like, look back through the little, like, grate and say, "If you're going to stay on my cart, you better stop making puns like that."
Puns make the world go
These-
round. Why would you take them away?
Did he say that to me?
Yes.
Because I called it rustic?
Yes.
All right. Isaac will just kind of raise his eyebrows and turn his head and look around the city.
All right. You look around the city as you all head over to the White Boar. And we will go ahead and stop there for the time being, Noble Heroes, and return with Isaac and his tale next, and what goes on at the White Boar. Thank you very much for joining us. Do give us a like and subscribe, and do try this at home. Thank you so much.